There's a new poll which has been done by IPSOS, and Rob Ford, Professor of Political Science at Manchester University, says that surface stability has a lot of churn underneath it. So there's a lot of rubbish going on. And the Lib Dems have benefited most from polls, from people changing their voting intention. The Labour Party, which is likely to, quote, sweep to power on July the 4th, has experienced high levels of turnover, losing about a quarter of the people who'd previously said that they were going to vote Labour, probably to the Lib Dems. But it's the Conservatives who have lost a third of their voters, who had planned to vote Conservative just 4 months ago. And this is a survey of 16,000 voters who were contacted at the end of January and now at the start of June, and 32% of people who initially said they would vote Conservative have now changed their minds. That is simply staggering. It's there in black and white. The FT has put out an article today. I'm blown away by the news, frankly. It seems to reflect the reality that one sort of sees from a distance. And there it is in hard black and white statistics. Of course, statistics can be massaged in various directions. You can't rely on them. It depends who is promoting the statistics, how those statistics are interpreted. I'd be very interested to hear what John Curtis has got to say. But the graph that underpins this looks very disturbing, and this huge change from January 2024 to June 2024. And Reform is the only party to significantly increase its total share of the vote over this period. And a lot of that is to do with Nigel Farage seizing the party leadership on June the 3rd. And those who have switched from Conservatives to Reform, 80% said they were unhappy with Rishi Sunak's performance as Prime Minister. It's not because people are voting Reform. It's not because people are voting Labour. It's because people are unhappy with the Conservatives. That is the reason that's being given in this survey and in other surveys and in other sort of anecdotal chats with people on the street. That is the reason the Conservative Party is going to lose. Not because another party has beaten it, but because it has demonstrated that it cannot be trusted by the electorate, that it hasn't delivered in the last 14 years, that it has retreated into mindless and aimless and pointless rhetoric. And it's going to take a long time for that habit to disappear. That habit has pervaded the House of Commons and probably the House of Lords as well. But it's not so noticeable in the House of Lords, where there are still debates going on which are interesting. Now, Keir Starmer has said he's going to make 100 Lords in the first few days of the Parliament after the general election, so that he can be sure that his legislation will get through, because the House of Lords is weighed heavily against the Labour Party. And I think, again, that's a very interesting dynamic, given the fact that Keir Starmer has said that he wants to abolish the House of Lords. He's not going to abolish the House of Lords. He's going to inflate it. And and in addition, so it's not going to be 100 Lords which are created in the first few days of the Labour administration. It's going to be significantly more, because there will be the outgoing Prime Minister's honours, and that will involve undoubtedly a few promotions into the House of Lords for people who have served the Conservative Party and people who perhaps haven't been elected, who the Conservative Party want to keep in the parliamentary estate. I think really, it's time for both parties to recognise the House of Lords is there for two purposes. Number one, to put senior members of the House of Commons administration out to pasture in the House of Lords, so they can still be found, so they can still be held accountable, so they can still be consulted. That includes all past prime ministers. The moment they cease office, they should be in the House of Lords. And it's a place to promote people of experience in different fields, not necessarily people of party loyalty, but people of experience in different fields. And I think if that were done, then the traditions of the House of Lords could be preserved, and it could be preserved as a place for debate. Simply to promote people into the House of Lords to get legislation through is not the way to encourage reform. To then get rid of the rump of the hereditary peers, again, is not the way to reform. The way to reform is to recognise these two organs that make up the House of Lords, that currently make up the House of Lords and should continue to. But to have an elected House of Lords, I think, is a mistake. You just end up with another version of the House of Commons, where people are standing up and slogan sprouting in anxiety about their next election. I think whoever is elected to the House of Lords, even if we go down that route, should only have one chance. They should never be elected twice. So they cannot be put in the position where they are standing for re-election, and with an eye over their shoulder. I think also there should be a lot more flexibility about party allegiance in any reformed, reconstituted House of Lords. And I will make a longer video about my thoughts on the House of Lords later. I think it performs a very good service at the moment. It's the only bit of the parliamentary estate which is working, and it seems absurd that from an ideological point of view, it should be the bit that is targeted for reform. The bit which should be reformed is the House of Commons.